Just over 62% of eligible voters hit the polls in the last general election. The stats get even worse when it comes to non-presidential elections. Forget about candidates' policy. On today's episode of Idaho State of Mind, we are giving you a little refresher on the world of politics and how it works. But first, thousands of new college graduates across the state of Idaho are heading out into the workforce. We'll take a look at job search strategies to help them start off on the right foot. Idaho State of Mind starts right now. Thank you for joining us on Idaho State of Mind, where we endeavor to educate the citizens of Idaho on the state of higher education. I'm Libby Howe. This is a production of Idaho State University, and we are proud that the majority of the show's content is created by ISU mass communication students. Well, decades after the rise of the women's movement, women still aren't getting equal pay. On average, over a lifetime, women will earn $1 million less than their male counterparts. Idaho State of Mind's Sean Forey joins us in the studio with a look at the program that will help teach women how to get their fair share. Sean?
Thanks, Libby. The Start Smart program at ISU is the first of its kind in the state of Idaho, geared towards guiding women into earning their equal share in their future careers.
$1 a man makes, a woman only earns 70 cents. Is this fair? Not quite. With the help from the Anderson Center and the American Association of University Women, graduating women at ISU can attend the Start Smart program.
Women who are going out into the workforce for the first time, interviewing for their jobs, how to benchmark that first job so that they know what the salary range should ideally be, and then how to negotiate to make sure that their salary is within that range.
With more women in the workforce than ever before, women are learning how to demand equal salaries and benefits in their careers.
We know that women who get a job right out of college are likely to be paid only about 80% of what their male counterpart would be paid right out of college, and that after 1 year of working, if they dropped out and went back, it would be likely to drop to less than 70%. So I can't say that I've seen a lot of growth. I think the growth that we're seeing is we're seeing far more female physicians, for example. We're seeing women move into a broader range of careers, and we're seeing them move into the careers that are higher paid.
With so many women being deemed the caregivers of a family, it's not stopping many from reaching for the top with careers in engineering, pharmacy, and various sciences.
We really need to work hard to make sure that women are getting as much in salary as they deserve, as much as men are earning. And I think the barrier is usually just that women don't ask for that same salary. And so we have to, express to women that it is okay to negotiate and to say that I am worth this much and this is what you need to pay me.
This spring's events at ISU mark the first Start Smart workshop at any college campus in Idaho. Organizers hope to expand to campuses around the state. Libby?
Great. Thanks a lot, Sean. And for more information on the workshop and the AAUW, you can visit our website at isu.edu/Idaho State of Mind. Well, thousands of graduates across the state are heading out into the job market. Joining us today with some insight into effective job search strategies is Troy Case. He is the director of ISU's Career Center. Troy, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I think one of the things that people maybe make mistakes on when they're heading out into the job force is not doing their resume and cover letter correctly. What strategies would you recommend for them?
Well, first of all, have it reviewed. I was just talking to a student intern in our office, and he was applying, and as well as he knows how to do those, he's very good at it. I reminded even him, even the people that know this stuff the best, have many people look this over, have experts look this over, people that are really good at catching mistakes. So that's the first thing. And of course, tailor your resume, tailor your cover letter to the job. Even if the job has the same job title, that resume should look very different. That cover letter should look very different. Many times I'll sit down with a student and we'll look at the job opening. I would love for them to bring that in when we're looking at a resume, because I want to see what's in that opening. I'm going to look through for keywords in the preferred qualifications, the required qualifications, and we're going to include that stuff right in the resume, right in the cover letter, so that the reader does not miss that they are qualified or the most qualified applicant.
So point by point, make sure you're fulfilling the needs that they're asking for.
Absolutely, and make sure that you go through that job opening to see exactly what those needs are, and are you hitting those in your resume and in your cover letter.
Perfect. How important is it to research a company before you go in for an interview? Does it really make a difference?
It's a deal killer if you don't. Most of the time, or a good portion of the time, a company will ask, what do you know about us? And you better have an answer for that. If you don't have an answer for that, it's kind of over. And even if they don't ask that question throughout the interview, you'll have opportunities to express what you know about that company or what about that institution. You need to know something about that. It will also help you with your questions at the end. I have had recruiters tell me that one of their big annoyances is that that somebody doesn't know much about the company. They didn't spend a few minutes doing research.
And really, it can be a quick process. Get on the internet, look at their website. It doesn't have to be, going through their annual reports necessarily.
Well, yeah, these days are a lot easier. When I was out of college, I don't want to age myself too much here. When I was getting out of college, it was not that easy. Yeah, you had to go to the library and you had to check out reference books to find out a little bit more about companies. It's a piece of cake now.
So take that extra time. Now, we always hear that networking is very important. Tell us some effective strategies for networking well.
Well, networking is extremely important. I heard a new figure recently published by one of the large media organizations, and they were talking about 80% of the jobs are found through who you know. Prior to the recession, the number I was hearing was 70%. So it is extremely important.
A big difference.
Yes, you need to get out and you need to talk with everybody that you know. A good first step would be to stop and make a list of all the people you know through all different organizations, that school, family, work, professors, of course, church organizations. I mean, anywhere you know anybody, you need to be thinking about that. Not that they necessarily have jobs, but they are in the network and you want to expand that network.
They may know somebody who can help you.
Right.
Okay. I think sometimes people get hitched up thinking that they have to, have a professional within the organization that they're wanting to get into, but sometimes just knowing people makes a difference.
Yes, yeah. I do have students say, well, I don't know anybody in the banking field or whatever they're applying for. And I tell them you don't need to, because
Dad might.
Exactly. Almost everybody you know in your network is connected somehow to the people that you want to talk to.
Now, not everybody is just now going into the job market for the first time. There are those of us who have been in the job market for a long time. What advice would you give to someone who's maybe thinking of switching a job or who has lost a job and is looking again?
Keep your resume updated, for one thing. It's surprising how many of us, myself included, don't keep our resumes updated.
I'm laughing because we talked about this earlier, and I went and looked back at my resume, and I thought I was being pretty good about updating it, and it had been 3 jobs ago that I had updated it, so it wasn't good.
Yeah, and that takes that much more time and thinking for you to remember what you did, and it opens up opens yourself up for some mistakes, leaving something out.
How often do you think you should update your resume?
I would, I'm laughing because I don't do this very well myself, but I would say every 6 months to a year.
Just
because
look at it.
There are important things that you're doing in your job that you really should be bragging about.
New skills. So maybe you haven't changed a job, but maybe there's a project you've been put on that you've increased your skill set.
Absolutely.
Okay. Social media has changed the job market a little bit, for good and for bad. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Recently, I was talking to a class, and I had them go out and interview a professional in the field. And I asked the class to experiment with the Facebook thing, to say, go ahead and get somebody lined up through that method. A student took me up on that challenge, and she was emailing me as this happened. And between the time she put out her little request on Facebook and the time she actually got an interview, which ended up being for a job, was 12 minutes. Oh my. So I was very convinced that it's worthwhile. Of course, there's a downside to that. There are a lot of folks that are putting things on their Facebook that they really shouldn't have employers looking at. And whether employers are connected on or not, they need to be thinking that employers might be connecting to that. There are more professional networking sites, though, such as LinkedIn, that they should really consider using.
Okay. Troy Case, thank you so much for joining us today. This is a really important topic. I know a lot of people are worried or maybe anxious about it at this point, making sure they get that first job. So thanks a lot for your help in this.
Thank you.
Evidence of an ongoing presidential campaign has been swirling around for months, and just in case you don't know your caucus from your pundit, we thought a little political refresher course might be in order. We have a few clues to help you get through this election year with a little more confidence. We start off with a look at the Electoral College. Did you know that when you hit the polls in November and mark your choice for president, you're not actually voting for one of the candidates? You're voting for an elector who has promised to vote for that candidate. Confused? Well, you're not alone. Idaho State of Mind's Deanne Coffin gives us a look at the Electoral College, what it is, and how it works.
Many people often question if it is even worth going to the polls to vote or not, or if their vote even really counts with having the Electoral College in place as part of the process of picking the President of the United States. Many people do not even understand the Electoral College and how the process even works.
Do you know what the Electoral College is?
The Electoral College? Not exactly.
The Electoral College is the ones that elect the president, really, right? Yeah.
I like the Electoral College. It allows Idaho a bigger voice, and it allows the candidates to come to places like Idaho.
Even law school graduates have questions about the Electoral College.
I know that the electors themselves are the ones that vote for the president, and that's controversial because it's not actually the popular vote that is electing the president. It's indirect. And then I don't know how states pick the electors.
Now, I grew up in Grace, and part of our government class in Grace, we had to learn what the Electoral College was. And, of course, we were tested on it, so it gave us some knowledge about what we had to do. But, you know, people forget, and they go on their way and don't think about it quite as much, and so it helps to understand it.
The Electoral College is a group of individuals who are elected to vote for the President and the Vice President of the United States. Each state is allowed in this group the total number of senators and representatives from their state. That number of people are then selected as electors by the different parties, and then when citizens go to the polls and vote, they vote for those electors to go then and vote for the President and the Vice President of the United States. The representatives picked for each state is based on the population of that state, plus 2 senators. So add the 2 representatives that Idaho has, and they have a total of 4 votes. The votes are especially important for the smaller states like Idaho. The Electoral College has been the subject of debate over the years, especially since the President Bush and Vice President Gore race.
Remember when George Bush won in 2000, he won by 1 Electoral College vote. That shows you how critical it is. If he would not have won Idaho, if he would not have won a small state like Wyoming, he would not have been president in 2000. So that's how critical just 1 or 2 Electoral College votes are, and so I think it's an example of why we need to keep the Electoral College system in place.
Even though the United States still uses the Electoral College, we still see many supporters here Skyline High to support the Mitt Romney campaign who still believe in the power of the people.
Reporting from Idaho Falls and Pocatello, Deanne Coffin, Idaho State of Mind.
An elector can vote any way they choose. However, they usually vote in favor of the party that elected them. Well, the Electoral College isn't the only bit of the election process voters tend to forget. Joining us today is Dr. Doug Nielsen from ISU's Political Science Department with some added insight into the political process. Dr. Nielsen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I enjoy talking about these things.
It's really interesting, and I think a lot of times people forget some of the things they learned, you know, in government class when they were in the 8th grade.
Well, they're often pretty complicated,
That's
and
true.
they change.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, this was the first year that the Republican Party in Idaho held a caucus instead of an election. Can you explain for people who aren't sure what a caucus is and how it works?
A caucus is, they specify a time and a place. Often there will be 1 caucus in each county, except for the counties with a lot of people. And people get together. They announce which candidate they support and are very careful. They go through a process of determining, say, how many delegates will be elected to the state convention, and of these, what proportion will vote, say, for Governor Romney, for the other candidates running. And this, if somebody has very little support, say oftentimes there's a threshold, say 15%, that they are not a viable caucus, and so they don't send anybody anywhere, but those people can vote again.
Now, looking at the presidential elections, we've seen a lot of information about the Republicans as they're trying to pick their nominee. And, you know, the Democrats have been pretty quiet because they have a sitting president who's eligible to run for office again. Is it a guarantee that the nominee from the party with the sitting president will have that president as their nominee?
It's not guaranteed, but it's it almost always happens. Any president in office who wants to run for re-election will probably be renominated by his party. There are a couple of interesting cases where this almost did not happen. Ronald Reagan ran against Gerald Ford and almost unseated him, and Senator Kennedy ran against President Carter. But I think, of course, we know that both Kennedy and Reagan are, you know, very powerful figures in American politics, but even they were unable to unseat a sitting president, and they were not. But of course, Ford and Carter lost their re-election bid, probably because of the costly primary fight.
Which probably shows why a lot of times it's just almost a given, even though it's not, it doesn't have to be the sitting president who becomes the nominee, but why they tend to do it that way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, recently in Bannock County, the Democrats caucused, and of all of the people there, of course there were very few there relative to 4 years ago, where thousands, literally thousands turned out at the caucus, but everybody was in favor of President Obama's renomination.
Dr. Doug Nielsen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
A little over half of the American population vote in presidential elections. The statistics for young Americans between the ages of 18 and 24 is especially low. Idaho State of Mind Summer Giac joins us in the studio with a look at what ISU is doing to encourage students to get involved. Summer?
Statistics show that on average, only 42% of young people with no college education vote, compared to 68% of those with some college involvement. ISU offers ASISU, which is the Associated Students of Idaho State University. This program offers students a chance to get involved and have their voices heard. I sat down with one student running for president to find out what the university is doing to help young people learn valuable lessons about government.
Matt Bloxham, who is running for student body president, hopes to bring influence and representation from the students' perspective.
It's really addicting. The campaign process is a lot of fun. I care a lot about ISU. I care a lot about Pocatello and the community here at ISU, so the best way to do anything there is to get involved.
Students get actual experience campaigning by having to create signs, posters, hand out business cards, and speak at classes. Matt spent over a month in his garage creating signs, so a lot of hard work, time, and money goes into running for office. Sean Stokes, current student body president, couldn't agree more, but both say that what they take away from this experience is worth it.
If you're involved with ISU, you find a really deep love with ISU as well. I know in future years to come, I'm going to look back to ISU and the things that they gave me and the opportunities they gave me, and it's been a wonderful experience here at ISU.
Sean believes that he has influence on the university. Every month he gets an opportunity to sit down with ISU's president and discuss what students want or what their feelings are about certain issues.
There was going to be a fee in a certain situation, and I've looked at both sides of the issue and said why I don't feel like that fee is necessary, and it didn't happen. They wanted a larger tuition, and I said, you know what, let's renegotiate and see if we can get a lower tuition rate for the increase in 2013. And they really do listen to me, and because of that, it went, instead of 5%, it's down to about 4.73%.
The student president is on the president's cabinet that meets once a week. He also has weekly meetings with ASISU Vice President for Student Affairs.
We do surveys of employers around the country, and we ask, what do you want from a college graduate? And many of the things they want is leadership skills, good communication skills, critical thinking skills is high on their list. So we try to provide that to the leaders within student government through workshops. We do case studies. We do many different things to help them build those skills, again, so that they're marketable when they leave.
ASISU has many opportunities for any student that wants to get involved. Students can be on one of the many committees, run for a Senate seat for their college, run for student vice president or president, or you can volunteer. The votes are in, and the next student president will be Matt Bloxham. He hopes to
create more of a Bengal community on campus to where it feels more like home, not only for incoming freshmen, but for seniors before they leave as well.
Matt says that the #1 fact employers want to know is that you complete your degree. Second, they want to know what you did while you were in college and what you took away from it. He said this experience has helped him gain leadership, discipline, and valuable life skills. He also expresses the biggest benefit was networking opportunities. Libby?
A lot, Summer. As the state-designated provider of health professions education, Idaho State University brings us Healthy State of Mind, a segment dedicated to all things health-related. The Idaho State University Department of Physical and Occupational Therapy is starting a study examining the occupational role change in stroke survivors. Often in the aftermath of a stroke, people's lives are changed dramatically. This study attempts to find out how people's own perceptions of their roles change after a stroke. These changes can be in regard to any role, things like being a grandfather or a spouse, a homemaker or a breadwinner, whatever role people have defined for themselves.
I want to be concerned about people's long-term outcomes from stroke. So I don't want to just focus on getting their arm working again or making sure they can pick up something or put it down. I want to get at what do all those things really mean in the context of their life.
These self-defined roles and whether or not people feel they're fulfilling those roles contributes greatly to the way a person finds meaning in life. Fulfillment of those roles is a big determining factor in a person's satisfaction with life. Idaho State University researchers are finding clues on combating dementia and strokes. Homocysteine is a chemical that can naturally develop in the brain and is known for disrupting the blood-brain barrier, causing dementia. ISU research has documented that the drug memantine can counter these effects. ISU professor Sean Bearden tested mice that had mildly elevated levels of homocysteine.
Now, what we did was we put together now a nice picture suggesting that this receptor may be responsible on blood vessels for starting this leakiness of the blood-brain barrier. Now, we think that this long-term contributes to some forms of dementia.
This finding has the potential of being a completely different approach for treating homocysteine-related dementia. By 2030, 438 million people will be living with diabetes. That's 7.8% of the adult population. Although this statistic may be alarming, the ISU College of Pharmacy has invested many hours in working to curb this epidemic. The hard work paid off, and the College of Pharmacy won first place in the national competition for their Operation Diabetes program. Operation Diabetes is a student program that helps educate individuals about the disease as well as screen those who attend.
They reach out to the community and offer diabetes care services such as A1C monitoring, blood glucose checks, drug counseling about their medications.
The ISU chapter of Operation Diabetes plans to expand the program to educate children in schools about diabetes and how to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Metal, math, and off-roading is something 4 Idaho State University engineering majors have become very familiar with. Idaho State of Mind's Ellie Spencer shows us what these students have been working on for the last year.
4 of Idaho State University's engineer majors are getting the opportunity to put all their new skills to the test. They have taken on the challenge of building an off-road vehicle to take part in the Society of Automotive Engineers Baja competition.
There's an endurance race, a rock crawl, and an agility course, and an acceleration challenge. But also they're looking for economics. They're looking for who can build the best car with the least amount of money, basically.
These students don't just have to physically build the vehicle, they have to design it, draw it, and really figure out the math behind the metal. Idaho State University is going to make this an ongoing project for senior engineer majors. It's a great way to show off their skills and still have a little fun doing it. Building an off-road vehicle is no easy task. These students started the planning of the vehicle at the beginning of the fall semester of their senior year and have to have it completed for the competition in Portland, Oregon by the time they graduate in the spring.
These students have put in hundreds of hours hoping to make their off-road vehicle #1.
Too many to count between design, computations, drawings, and then the actual fabrication and construction. Just individually, I'll bet we've each got over 100 hours into it.
The students made it very clear the biggest obstacle they have encountered is funding for the project. They have received help from several businesses in the Pocatello area, but say they can always use more. Any money they can't get donated comes out of their own pocket. They encourage donations from anyone who can help.
The best way would be to contact anyone in the Society of Automotive Engineers at ISU. That's the club that this project's going to be associated with. So you can contact any of the presidency or any of the members. You could also get into contact with the Idaho State University School of Engineering, and they could put you into contact with us too.
In Chubbuck, Ellie Spencer, Idaho State of Mind.
For more information on the competition, go to our website at isu.edu/Idaho State of Mind. And that's all for this episode. Thank you for joining us from the campus of Idaho State University. I'm Libby Howe. We'll see you next time.